We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. So, I am very much getting to the point of like maybe I don't do the world news updates anymore.
Thank you. I know some people like it. I do not. It is against my will that I am hearing these things. As much as, I mean, I think there were like 6 school shootings last week.
Well, mass shootings supposedly. There might have been schools in 24 hours. There were 6 mass shootings in the United States, including a horrific one at Mormon Church in Michigan, and but I mean Southport, North Carolina. There was
but don't worry, he's sending the National Guard to Portland, so I guess that'll do something.
National Guard,
maybe not.
Supposedly being sent to Portland. The remarkable self-reflection of him saying, "Is what I'm being shown by my people on TV not reality?" I was like, "Whoa, whoa." We have gone through the looking glass here, folks. Holy smokes.
Let's just take a break from the news for a bit. Can we just take a break from the news for a bit?
We've said those things now.
Yeah, well, that's that. Maybe next week we won't mention anything because
James Comey got indicted, so that was followed through on the threats to just go after the political opponents, and Trump got in a fight with an escalator. That whole thing with the UN General Assembly.
It was like his own photographer that accidentally pressed the button that made it stopped.
Yeah, but the entire UN...
It was the liberals. The liberals are doing it.
The entire UN General Assembly meeting, that seemed tense this year.
I can't imagine why.
Not to have gone particularly smoothly.
I don't know. Yeah.
So, I mean, supposedly, Netanyahu and the USA have agreed on a 20-point plan to create a ceasefire in Gaza. It seems like maybe Gaza should be involved in the 20-point plan, but...
One would think, but hey, I am not the maker of the deals.
So there you go. So enough of the horrible, depressing United States news, because it's mostly United States news. There was a piece of really good news, the headline that I do want to highlight, because... All right,
let's talk about good news.
In the UK, for the first time ever, they had a very successful clinical trial treating Huntington's disease.
Yes, I heard about
75% success rate in significantly slowing the progress of the disease, Huntington's disease, which is a horrible, horrible degenerative disease. So to see any progress on that, to see a really quite successful clinical trial on that is fantastic news. That's a wonderful thing that I wanted to highlight. So we can go forward on that and know that something a little bit nice did happen last week.
I'm sure more than that nice happened.
Of course, but it's as far as big headlines and not taking up very much time on this podcast, that's not what we're about. But it is context for what's going on.
So what's going on with you, Rob? That's in the wonderful land of Canada.
Right. Well, has nothing to do particularly with Canada. But so yeah, I've got one piece of kind of pretty downer personal news, which I guess I'll mention first. So. This fellow was not like a personal friend in the sense of like we didn't spend time at each other's house or something like that, but a coworker of mine passed away, and it was an accident. So we're gonna miss him. He was a heck of a nice guy. Like I don't know what was going on in his personal life. I never heard anything to say that he didn't have a very happy personal life or anything like that. But as far as seeing him at work, I mean, always making people laugh and always a very positive person. So anyway, it's
that's too bad.
Yeah,
my wife has got like a coworker who's like every time she comes home from work, she's like, "Oh, this is what's going on with her now." I'm like, "What is going on? Who did she piss off?" Because her life just keeps, like, her cat dies and then her dad's in the hospital or whatever. I don't remember all the specifics, but it's just like one thing after another. I'm like, this poor lady. Man, sometimes when it rains, it pours. But I guess that kind of happened to me last year, so it goes around, I suppose. But go on.
So,
what's your good news, Rob? You got some good news?
Well, no, I'm not gonna. No, this isn't good news. It's not bad news. Just mentioning that. We've been coordinating, of course, with the healthcare providers that look after my aunts. So my aunt who has dementia, she's been living in assisted living. There's no like race or rush or anything like that. And as far as if we went through all the provincial hoops to jump through to have any sort of subsidizing, which I don't think she would qualify for anyway, because she has too much income to qualify for subsidies, which is not a bad thing by any means. But it also just opens up the freedom of, hey, we can choose any private residence that we want. But it's getting to be about time with how her dementia and Alzheimer's is progressing. That it's like, okay, it's probably time to be looking for care homes. So that's going to be going on. There might be a week or two at some point in the not terribly distant future if I'm getting her moved and all of that type of stuff, that we might take a 1 week break hiatus or something like that from the podcast if that happens. But
sure,
there you go. That's all going on in the background in my life. So yeah, if I'm not super chipper this week, that's why sometimes those thoughts pass through your head while you're talking. And so it hasn't been super happy news around here, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, I'm hemorrhaging money. Like, I get paid to spend money. I spent so much money this weekend.
I mean, the good news is prices are going down, aren't they? Aren't prices going down across the board in the USA? Wait.
No.
Oh, wait. Not quite?
Buy soon, because it's not going to get any cheaper. A couple things. We ordered the shelving units for the 3 of the closets the 5 closets in here.
Okay.
Or 5 things that we might want to put shelves in. We ordered shelving units for 3 of them, 3 bedrooms, which we will use almost immediately to fill up. We'll fill it up with clothes and everything else. It needs to happen. There's no world in which I think that we didn't overpay on some level. It's not the most expensive. It certainly isn't a DIY cheap. So where in the realm it goes in the realm of, I only have so much mental energy or psychic ability to process so many things. I need something to be done, and I don't got time to do. Like some people sent me some other options, and I kind of looked at them and it's like, man, this is just we've already started down this path. We're just doing it, and it's fine.
Are they good? Are the closet organizers good? Or
we've gotten them yet, but yes, they are of. Like I said, we have a friend who does. She's a professional organizer, and she said, these are perfectly fine and of reasonable quality for the amount of money that you pay, and we're just going to have somebody else install them, because I still don't have any tools, though I did get a picture from Clint of tools that he has put aside for me, and I'm like, well, I need them because I can't put anything in the wall right now, and I would love to. So I actually went to Home Depot, had a box of like picture hangers so I could start hanging pictures and room treatments and stuff like that. And between the time I picked it up and the time I got to the front, I lost it. I just set it down somewhere to look at something else, and I never picked it back up. I'm so irritated. I got home, I'm like, where the hell is it? It's not on the receipt. It's not anywhere else. It's just not there. I'm so mad. But anyways, so we bought fans because we're replacing or installing fans in all the bedrooms because it's Florida and you need to get some air movement in here.
I mean, I'm assuming there is air conditioning in the house, but you still just need to circulate the air a little bit more.
Yeah, you just need to circulate the air. And my wife cannot sleep without a fan. It's just not something that happens.
That's me too. I understand that.
And I unfortunately told the guy that I work with at the bike shop that I was going to pay to have shelves installed in our hallway closet, and they're just going to be shelves. And he's like, well, you could do it. I'm like, I really don't want to. Well, I'll help you. I'm like,
could.
I'm like, I don't want to do it. It'll be easy. We'll do it together. I'm like, oh sure. God.
Famous last words.
So, this weekend I bought 1 piece of plywood, because that's all we needed for all these things, right? 1 piece of plywood, and I had them cut it at Home Depot, which they did a terrible job of. Yep. I mean, it's mostly straight cuts, but the blade was dull and it was kind of fractured.
It always is. It's always an incredibly dull blade that you can't use properly.
So I took it to the shop, and he brought his router, and I routed the edges so that they're nice and clean now. And I'm going to go get paint or stain, probably paint, because I don't want to stain them because it's going to be a pain. and then go get paint. And go to the shop after this podcast to go paint them. And then he's like, oh, it'll be easy to install. You just do this, 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 and this. I'm like, I can't do any of that because I don't have any tools. Oh, well, I'll come over and help you. I'm like, you don't have any time. I don't have any time. I don't know when this help is supposed to be coming, but
right.
Whatever. So I will be painting shelves for the next couple of days because you paint one side and you got to kind of like let it sit for a bit.
Wait. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Unless you want
there's
a
like these
horrible
little
looking finish.
Yeah.
I mean, it is shelves. Ostensibly, things are going to be on top of it, so whether the finish is fantastic or not shouldn't really matter that much.
It doesn't really matter. It's going to be in the closet. But at the same time, you still have to do a reasonable job painting it. And the rounded edges did come out really good, so I'm kind of proud of that. So, it's just been it's been non-stop.
Yeah.
Went to a baby shower this weekend.
Oh, gosh.
It's like, I remember I got home from cycling with my wife. Got home a little bit later than me, and she's like, well, when are we going to leave? I'm like, for what? She goes, the baby shower. I'm like, that's today? She's like, yeah, it started an hour ago. I'm like, oh, crap. I guess we got to go. So, it's just like one thing after the other. So, yes, things are going. Yes, we're making progress. We got through a bunch of boxes. Things are happening. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. And if we can once we get the closets done, or maybe a little bit earlier than that, we'll have enough boxes out of here that we can start envisioning where the furniture will go, and then we'll go shopping for furniture, which my wife says she wants to do this weekend.
That'll help with the hemorrhaging of money.
Yeah, I was going to say, apparently we haven't spent enough money lately. Ceiling fans aren't expensive. I think we bought ones that were like $100 to $20, $130 or something like that a piece, which is not that much, but when you buy 4 of them,
that's right. Puts a little ding on the credit card.
They add up.
They do. That's how summation works.
Yes. So yes, Rob, did you watch anything this week?
I sure did. I watched one movie this week. I watched The Naked Gun. This is the 2025 Liam Neeson.
Right.
I guess kind of a little bit legacy sequel, since they don't say that the Leslie Nielsen ones didn't. In fact, they directly reference that they did exist.
Sure,
so
why not?
This is, I guess you can call it legacy sequel, but it's basically a reboot. But yes, Liam Neeson taking over the lead role, Frank Drebin Jr., and Pamela Anderson playing the femme fatale that is going to be part of the mystery that's going on. It absolutely tracks. And so, this was... what is his name? I only know his first name, Akiva, one of the Lonely Island members.
Oh, okay. I don't know his name either.
Yeah, so he was writer-director on this. Now, he was also writer-director on the most recent Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie, the animated / live-action one that they put on Disney Plus that I absolutely loved.
I feel like that you like that. So
I very much like that. So yes, I do enjoy his style of humor. He is very much staying in the same vein as the original Naked Gun movie. So this is funny. It certainly opens up with a gazillion gags per minute, as you do in a Naked Gun movie, and it is the absolute silliness. I love a running gag, and they definitely have some good running gags in this, all involving coffee. The fight scenes are hilarious because they're not hiding that Liam Neeson is not a young man anymore. And so they're just completely leaning into it and making the fight scenes even more ridiculous because of that. And so, yeah, he's a great, taking over for Leslie Nielsen because he is a dramatic actor and he doesn't deliver any of the lines to be funny. Everything is deadly serious coming out of Liam Neeson's mouth, which of course works very well for this deadpan style of humor. So yeah, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like busting a gut. It was more like a quick laugh very frequently. That's the style of humor it is. It wasn't like bust a gut, gigantic laugh. It was lots of small laughs, which is still very enjoyable. But if you're looking for like that one absolutely make you cry laughing moment, I don't think it happened. I also did, like, of course, in a movie like this where there's a gazillion gags a minute, not every single one of them lands, but there was one sequence in particular where it was a very sort of Austin Powers style gag of, what one person is seeing through binoculars is not what's really going on, type of thing. But I thought they went a little too far in the suggestiveness of the misinterpreted scenes. I was like, it's not really funny anymore. It's just pretty much straight up gross. But that was the only sequence that I really felt didn't work quite the way that they had maybe envisioned. So overall, yeah, I give it a thumbs up because it's a fun, pleasant time. It is a movie that you want to actually watch, like, while there's plenty of just puns and jokes for the people who put a movie like this on in the background. It's like a lot of the jokes are visual. So this is one that you actually want to pay attention to the screen so that you're not missing many of the jokes that are going on visually. So yeah, a fun time, a pleasant time, frequent small laughs, and that's what I thought of The Naked Gun. What did Tom watch? Because you actually watched something this week in your new mini theater.
I know. My new 3.0.
Okay.
It's those poor Kef speakers are never meant to play this low. So we did. I did mention to my wife that I thought KPop Demon Hunters was something that she would like. My son was in the midst of watching it, and then he's decided to stop because he's watched the first half of the movie twice, but never finished the movie.
Interesting.
And for whatever reason, the first time he didn't finish it because they were watching it on somebody's phone while he was at camp over the summer, and then the second time was because we decided we were all going to watch it together. So we watched it. We watched it together. Just like Rob, I agree with everything he said. The songs are way better. And this is true, like, of Hamilton and a bunch of other stuff. You just listen to like a musical. You're like, I don't really understand why people love these songs so much. And then you watch it in the, you watch the music being performed and you're like, oh yeah, okay. Now I see the emotional, and like I feel
the rather dense lyrics of these songs that are directly referencing what's happening in the movie.
On the screen and in the movie, yes.
It very much, it takes on much more connotation than just hearing the song all by itself, for sure.
And like Rob said, there are some loose threads that are not tied up.
Definitely.
And there's certainly things. I wanted to know a little bit more about the other two characters' backstories, the two main characters' backstories. It was certainly very interesting. I enjoyed it immensely. My wife enjoyed it. My son enjoyed it.
There you go.
I thought it was great.
Okay.
So I won't belabor that one.
I showed it to my parents and they enjoyed it too. So like I said, I can't picture who wouldn't enjoy this movie. And so far so good. It's batting 100.
All right. I also watched by myself last night the Thunderbolts.
Ah, yes.
Which is the new, new.
Is it new?
Disney movie. Well, new on Disney Plus at some point.
Okay.
Because I haven't opened Disney Plus in months.
Wait, are you talking Thunderbolts?
Thunderbolts. What did I say? Thunderbirds?
He said Thunderbirds because there is a movie called Thunderbirds. So I thought that's what you
Bolts.
meant. Okay.
Bolts. Sorry, let me retype that.
Thunderbolts.
That's what I meant.
And don't forget the asterisk at the end because it's very much a key part of the title.
Oh, I know. Everybody knows what that is now, though.
They do. Yes.
Anyways, so the Thunderbolts, which I'm like, finally, finally a Marvel movie that was like an actual movie and not a series of quips and action sequences. I just adored it. I loved it. I loved it. And of course, the reason is because I'm, as much as I mean, I know who all the characters are. I know a lot of their backstories. I knew who the quote unquote bad guy was.
Sure.
Bad group, or however you want to, number of people who were kind of the anti people in this movie. I knew who all the
antagonists is a fair enough term.
I knew who all of them were. I knew their all of their stuff. I haven't read all their comic books, but I knew enough about them, and I was sufficiently not spoiled. I did know that who the bad superpowered person was, but I didn't know much about how they had depicted them on screen. So I went in there fairly blind. But the key thing in this is that we have a central character who the movie is built around, that we can that has an arc, has a character arc, and we get to know the other characters, and we get to spend some time with them, and they talk to each other, and they interact with each other, and they have like real lives, and,
not purely relying on having seen the Disney Plus series to fill in gigantic gaps.
So I just love that they took some time, especially at the beginning of the movie, but they took some time for us to get to know the characters a little bit. So I actually told my wife, I'm like, this is a Marvel movie that I think you'll like, because you have enough time with the characters to get an idea, sense of who they are, of what they're about, and I thought it was great. I actually am like, for so often in these movies, the big bad is so big and so bad that you're like, they can't win. They can't win. Yes. So they have to come up with some other way to win. Okay. And it feels cheap a lot of times. Ooh, this did not feel that way to me.
I'll be interested to hear what you think of Fantastic Four when you get to see that eventually in the not too distant future.
I am looking forward to that as well. But it often feels cheap. This did not feel cheap. It felt organic. It felt like, other than there's a couple decisions I'm like, I don't know. I don't exactly know that makes total sense from the standpoint of self-preservation, but fine.
Given what we've seen in recent history in the world, I am far more forgiving of any movie of characters making choices that don't seem to make any sense, because I'm like, well, art is just mimicking real life. At this point, I'm a lot more forgiving now than I used to be.
So I did like how the whole thing, there was one character at the very beginning who, they always have that one sacrificial character that they're like, okay,
you got to show how dangerous the bad guy is.
We got to show how dangerous it is. We got to kill somebody. And they killed somebody. I was like, I didn't want you to kill that one. I really didn't. And their costume was awesome, which really pissed me off. I'm like the best costume.
Good. At least you finally cared about a death in a Marvel movie. They can always come back. I was
going to say they can come back, because I think they died in the last one too. I don't remember. I feel like they died a bunch. So that was I recommend this movie. I think it was good. And
it sounds like 2 thumbs up for what you watched this week from Tom.
I'm excited. Yeah.
What was the Colby Smulders character? Maria Hill, was that her character name?
Oh yes, Maria Hill. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm still waiting for her to just show up one day with no explanation of how she came back from the dead. Just forget about that death. It was a terrible death. Never should have happened. I'm just waiting for her to just pop up on screen.
Die? I don't remember how she died.
It was in the Secret Invasion terrible show.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it didn't even serve any narrative purpose. It was just a meaningless death of a well-liked character. Bit part honestly within the whole Marvel thing, but it's just like she deserved better than that. That was terrible. So I just memory hole that didn't happen. She just shows up. Didn't happen.
So one question I would have about that is, did the actor request the death? Like, I don't want to do these anymore.
Right. Yeah.
I will do this series if you kill me off.
It still doesn't matter in Marvel.
Yeah, that's true.
Gazillion ways to bring every character back.
Maybe she'll be the next Doctor Doom.
Hey, would have been better than recasting Robert Downey Jr. in my opinion. I'm not particularly looking forward to that.
You know what? So that does happen in the comics. Like,
sure.
There's an alternate version of Doctor Doom where it's Tony Stark.
It's an alternate version of everybody, but
yes, they do that, the palette swap quite often.
Yes, they do.
In Marvel. So it's not without precedent, but at the same time, I understand what you're saying. I am always of the opinion that coming to a conclusion that I like or don't like something before I've seen it doesn't serve any real purpose. I just they announced it. I went, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
People got real mad, right? People got real mad.
Some people got really happy. That's fine too.
And I'm just like, I will reserve judgment until I see it. Maybe it'll be awesome.
Hey, I can be won over. I'm just saying, first blush reaction from me, I was like, I don't really love that.
I was around when they cast Michael Keaton as Batman.
Sure, of course.
I survived that. So I would. Anybody who's like, well, this is going to be terrible. You don't know how bad it's going to be. Yeah, I do. I was there for Michael Keaton being Batman. Yeah. And everybody at the end of that movie, we were all like, Yeah, okay, I guess he's Batman.
Yeah,
I guess
he's
he
Batman.
can be Batman. And now everybody's like, he was the best Batman. Man, I don't
Still
know
didn't
about
help
that.
the Flash movie. Still did not help that movie.
All right, this is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Come to our website, find our shows, our show notes, our links to any products or articles that we'll be referring to, as well as a Flickr album, so you can follow along with the pictures that we'll be mentioning or using, referencing. You know, people send us, they're like, fix my room.
Right.
We need a picture of the room. They send us a picture. We show the picture.
It
so
is a
there you
help.
go. Facebook.com/AVRant podcast, YouTube.com/AVRant. You can watch the pictures up on the screen. Rob will put them up there for you.
I will.
Contact Rob directly, rob@avrant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. My socials are shut up. I don't do socials anymore because the internet is a terrible place.
Sure is.
It is. It has
I've
not
closed
made
off
society. It is either not made society better, or, and I think you can make a very good argument about that, or it has exposed how bad people really were. Either way, my life has not improved.
Criticism we have of social media and of AI and everything is really a criticism of human beings, because we're all very concerned about how it will be misused. That's really the honest concern. But no, I mean, I've closed off comments on our YouTube videos because it was just it's the stupid thing of like every name. I mean, obviously not every comment, because we have our regular listeners who sometimes leave comments, and it's a shame that I don't have it open for them to leave comments anymore. But we have the stupid thing of like, you know, it's the random name with the random image and then the 4 numbers at the end of their name of every single one of them. And it's like, and they are actually clearly using AI, because they are directly like quoting something we say somewhere in the podcast. So it is like listening through or reading through the transcript, most likely, and it is pulling something out of there and then just 180-degree disagreeing with it, with nothing to back it up, but just to be contrarian. And I'm like, oh, great. Yeah, let's go through a dozen of those every week. So no, I've just closed off the comment section. I'm like, on our videos with our like 1,000 views, like why? Why is some stupid bot farm bothering to do that? But obviously it's just so cheap to do that.
I guess so.
There it is. So good times. All
right. Let's thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, support the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is going to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and sending us a PayPal donation. This week, we want to thank Raph for doing that 2 weeks in a row. Thank you very much, Raph.
Yeah, it's not just a mistaken repeat on our part. Raph really did send in 2 PayPal donations, 1 each week. So thank you so much, Raph, for your financial support.
You also, if you want to support us monthly, you can do that through patreon.com/AVRant podcast. Every month, Patreon takes some money from, take money from you, give most of it to us. So 128 patrons currently are supporting us on Patreon, and we thank you all.
Yeah, once again, that is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thank you to our 128 patrons over there.
We got some notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from a Jack, who thanks for just feeling like a chat between a couple of old friends. It's nice to have a little normalcy every week, and also he proved definitively that he is part of the 2 Hour Plus Club 3 times. Is that right? Is that 3 times?
I mean, he got all the secret words in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So good job, Jack.
That's right.
Karl, who really enjoyed Joe's coverage of CDA 2025. Alex, Infinite Gary, who was pleasantly surprised to hear me be the one to recommend a 2-screen solution, a flat panel plus a motorized projection screen, to Adam last week. Gary certainly approves of that approach. Raph, Jason S., Jason E., and Gurinder. So I'll say those names again. Jack, how many Jacks do we have? Just one? That's like 2. Like Jack, Karl, Alex, Infinite Gary, Raph, Jason S., Jason E., and Gurinder. Thank you for thanking us.
That's right. I'll say the names one more time. We got Jack, Karl, Alex, Infinite Gary, Raph, Jason S., Jason E., and Gurinder. Thank you all so much for your notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
In the news, we can't say we're shocked, but Sofabaton has let us know that the anticipated October 18th launch date for their new X2 touchscreen remote has been postponed. There have been some, quote, unforeseen circumstances, end quote, and for now they're saying there'll be a 2-week delay. You know, it is, honestly, in the world we live in right now, yes.
I mean,
you
I'm
were
still hopeful
forgiven.
because they've been kicking up a storm on their own Facebook page. So they are very, very much like, yes, this thing is coming out, but it's just given the number of delays previously, and here's another one, and it's another 2 weeks. It's like, ah, boy. But there we go.
So that pushes the expected launch date for the X2 remote to November, but the exact date is yet to be confirmed. We're also still waiting on what the final price will be. So if this ends up dragging out, we won't keep saying only 2 more weeks every time it happens. The next time we talk about the X2 on this podcast will be when we're giving our initial impressions with the remotes in hand. But we felt compelled to mention this update because it won't be happening on October 18th, as we had stated before. So we're not talking about them anymore until they but until we have the remotes to test.
Yeah, because I'm not going to string things along, that's for sure. But I mean, I did hedge my bets when we because it was the week you were away there, so we did the news of the actual date when Lee Overstreet was guest co-hosting. So hedged my bets in the words that I used because we're like, yep, there can always be unplanned delays in that. So the October 18th was not hard and fast, but there you go. It's directly confirmed. It's going to be at least 2 weeks later than that, and yeah, could be even more. We don't know.
Electronic Arts has agreed to sell itself for $55 billion, after which it will become a private company, no longer be listed on the stock market. The buyers are Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund and Jared Kushner's Affinity Partners. I mean, the games are going to be awesome from this point forward.
Right, yeah.
Private equity, luckily, has never ruined a company, so I'm sure that won't happen here either.
Yes.
Anyways, it's Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, Jared Kushner's Affinity Partners, and a private equity firm called Silver Lake.
Yep.
The Silver Lake is actually a region in Los Angeles. That's pretty expensive and nice. Anyways.
This is the name of the firm, so I don't know if that's where they're located or if they just like the name, or who knows.
Together, they're putting up $36 billion in cash, but also taking on nearly $20 billion in debt financed by J.P. Morgan. So, how will they pay back that debt, do you think?
Right. I mean, clearly they'll be looking to give everyone working there a raise, right?
Oh, yeah. It definitely won't be increased prices and then fire everybody.
And they'll be looking to, like, go for artistically driven projects, take a flyer on things.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly.
Sure.
That's
It'll definitely be, you'll see a lot more innovation now.
Yeah, that's right.
It won't just be cookie cutter, same game over and over again. Like new releases every year of the exact same game, but with slight increases for
blind bag purchases, microtransactions. I mean, none of these things will be implemented to try and pay down the 19-point-something billion dollars in debt that they're adding to a company that's already in financial decline.
Loot boxes.
Great.
In everything. It's just going to be loot boxes. All right. Existing shareholders will receive a 25% premium buyout of their shares based on the stock price prior to the announcement, and EA will go private once the sale is complete. It will be the largest leveraged buyout in history, which has raised some eyebrows since previous leveraged buyouts that involved taking on a lot of new debt almost all resulted in bankruptcy just a few years later. The practice of
I mean, there were a few quarters that made the people at the top extra money, so, who knows what the motivations could be. Just got to stroke your chin and really ponder this one.
Really ponder what's going to happen here. If you work for EA and you're not on your LinkedIn profile right this second, like, what are you even doing with your lives? Like, do not be the well, maybe they'll work out this time guy or gal, because it's not. The practice of executing massive leverage buyouts, therefore, fell out of favor, but this might be an indication that they are making a comeback. Oh, good.
Yeah.
The sale is expected to be completed during EA's first financial quarter of 2027, meaning the end of 2026, and it's expected that virtually all smaller projects will be shut down with many employees laid off as a cost-cutting measure, and all of the focus poured into EA's major franchises, particularly those with recurring revenue. Season passes, loot boxes, all kinds of just garbage.
I'm sure the wonderful EA pop-ups that, I mean, everybody who comments on games online like just flat out like rakes them over the coals and makes fun of them because they're like, yeah, every 5 seconds when you're playing an EA game, there's like a pop-up on screen. Hey, try this other EA property. Hey, wouldn't you like to do this add-on in this DLC? They're like, I'm sure that'll get better now. It's going to be so improved.
So EA CEO will stay on to continue running the company, and he has said that AI will play a major role in moving the company forward.
Yeah. Another great sign for jobs.
Oh, my God.
Also, I'm sure that'll just go smoothly. Yes, no problem at all.
I mean, there's a lot of people who don't like EA. I might be one of them. I don't really know, to be honest with you, because I can't remember which companies I hate anymore because I hate so many of them. But who are certainly over the moon about this, and because it is essentially, somebody is going to they're taking all this debt on, they're doing all this stuff. They're going to, in order to make pay themselves a bunch of money, and then declare bankruptcy and sell off the assets. That's all. I mean, that's what they're doing, and that's what. Great. These companies have been actually murdering, these poor programmers and everybody else, and I hope that they go on to find better, more fulfilling jobs that will actually pay them what they're worth and give them
at
some
Microsoft
joy.
That owns every other studio in existence at this point.
I know it's all about indie game development now, right? You have to be what Silk Song is the new Hollow Knight game that everybody's talking about, and it took them like 8 years to do it, but it's like 2 people or whatever it is. I'm not saying that everybody can do that, but
definitely not.
Just the worst.
Just doesn't seem great. Doesn't seem great for the video game industry. It's like,
They moved the Rapture again. I'm so disappointed. It's right after my birthday. I mean, I have to be a year older. Maybe I'll age out before the Rapture comes. They moved it. President Trump reaffirmed his pledge from back in May that movies made outside the USA will have a 100% tariff levied against them. I don't even know how you do that. Because our movie making, quote, our movie-making business has been stolen from the United States of America by other countries.
Which was for some reason capitalized and had a bunch of commas in there.
Just like stealing candy from a baby.
Right, yeah.
I don't think that's how stealing candy from a baby works.
Does not seem. Normally, you don't have like wildly complicated contract structures spread across the entire globe and over many years.
I run all my. In fact, when we bought this house, I actually gave the contract to a baby, and if they spit up on it, I was like, "Well, that means that it's good.
Yeah,
that means it's fine." Yeah. Given that most movies today use production, financing, post-production, visual effects, and co-production with other studios that span across multiple countries, nobody has any idea how such a movie tariff would be enforced. Don't worry about it.
Right.
It's not his problem.
Yeah.
There also doesn't seem to be a legal basis for instituting such a tariff via executive order, but President Trump says it's necessary for national security.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows what any of those words mean, but whatever. Okay. Listen,
nobody stopped anything he's done before.
We're going to get in trouble.
That, but we are.
At some point, you just have to look at this and go, no matter who you are, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, you have to look at it at some point and say, I don't think that's what those words mean. Like, I don't think that's what those words mean in that order. When you put them in that order, they don't make a lot of sense. And like stealing candy from a baby in relation to the movie industry moving to different, doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
It
so
truly
I'm not
doesn't.
saying.
It's the whole thing of, at one point in the past, Hollywood movies were largely like filmed in Hollywood, on location, at studio lots.
Everything looked like Los Angeles.
In the surrounding area. It's why the British countryside in no way looks like Southern California. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
We are in the foothills of Southern California right now, a.k.a. the Amazon.
But yes, absolutely it is the case that this has been commented on before, and this is why I put it in this news section, because, this is movie making. This is germane to the topic of this podcast. Certainly, yes, production has been spreading out all over the place. And why? Well, other places have been offering lots of tax incentives and financial loopholes and all these types of things to lower the cost, but to draw that Hollywood money out of physical Hollywood and have those large productions spending hundreds of millions of dollars now on blockbusters, spread that money around to other places. So the notion of, strictly if you're thinking of the United States and that's going to be your number one priority, it's like, how do we get some of that money back? These are still Hollywood-based studios. Why are they not, spending more of the money within the United States? That's not an unreasonable idea whatsoever. So, back in May, when this idea of a 100% tariff was floated on anything that is made outside of the United States, as far as movie making goes, there was a whole proposal by the Hollywood industry. They're like, here's our list of all the ideas that we've had for decades at this point of how you can incentivize more money to be kept and spent within the United States. I mean, chief among them was, hey, start matching some of those tax incentives. That's a big part of it, because California charges crazy high taxes for productions that are actually done there. So like, hey, start instituting some of those same tax incentives. Like, it was a long proposal list. Here are all the things that are drawing us away to other parts of the country, because I mean, a lot has moved to Georgia and other parts of the USA, and then here's what's drawing us outside the country, and here's what the United States could do to get more. But it's never going to be exactly like it used to be, because there are just established visual effects specialty houses that are not in the United States, and we're not going to stop using them. They're the best, they're the fastest, they're the cheapest, and it's not just going to, we're instantly stop using them. So it's like, there is no movie that is like 100% made anywhere anymore. It's all spread out around the globe.
Maybe
all
small
of them
indie stuff being done by just a couple
we're talking
people
like
in their garage. But we're talking about like major movie
Hollywood
releases.
major movie.
It's just,
I mean,
it's just impossible.
Just look at the end credits of any movie. I know streaming makes you skip it and barely be able to watch the credits anymore. But if you actually stick around to the end, it's like, look at all the credits they give, all the places, right? Yeah. You're going to see a lot in Canada.
I was just looking at that on Thunderbolts. It was like the Malaysian crew, crew, that
Indonesian,
crew.
There's Australian, UK, Canadian. Like, there's a whole bunch of credit, and it's like, so how do you divvy up the tariffs on that? And in the end, it's the U.S. production company that has to pay the tariff. So how do you calculate that? How do you enforce it? Yeah, fun questions to be raised there. And also, let's just ignore all of the proposals that were made by the people in the industry who've been saying for decades, here's what you could do. Ignore all of that.
So I want to remind everybody that during around 2009, 2010, when we moved to Australia, the reason we moved to Australia is because there was a mining boom. There was a mining boom because there was they lowered taxes on mining companies to set up and do things, or there were tax incentives or whatever. They did something, right? But while we were there, the local governments started getting like, hey, they can't just come in here and take all of our resources and not pay us anything. I'm like, well, that's why they're here, because and they're providing a bunch of jobs, and there's a mining boom, and the people are making money, and your economy is kind of booming. But yes, the government's not directly getting paid from these companies. So they start raising taxes. And then, the companies will be like, well, we're already here. The taxes aren't that much more. It costs a lot more to move. So we'll stay. But eventually you'll make it so toxic or so expensive that like, it's just cheaper to move. And that's exactly what happened. And I see this happen all over the place. You if you've been around long enough, you see this happen all over the place where, some company says, hey, we're going to, if you give us some tax breaks, we'll set up our manufacturing facility here. We'll hire a bunch of local people. And suddenly this town where there wasn't very many jobs has, half the town or even more will work in the local, industry, whatever that facility might be,
and I'm not going to argue that that's all upside. I mean, there are plenty of very valid arguments you can make against that entire way of doing business. But
that's certainly how you do this. And then if you don't want to do that, telling them that, that they have to anyway, it's just going to be like, this is just stupid. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? It's just going to, anyways. All right. Let's get to questions here. Alex is looking to get himself a new computer monitor. The priorities will be photo editing and kind of sort of gaming. Accurate photo editing is a must. Gaming would be a very nice bonus to have. He really hasn't kept up with computer monitor tech and model numbers. The last time he researched it, IPS LCDs were still king. So what do we recommend? It's going to be an OLED, right?
It is for me, yeah.
Yeah, it has. He has an i1 Display Pro colorimeter that he can use to calibrate for color accuracy, and he'd like it to be 27 inches or just a little bit larger, not smaller. 4K, I guess that would be nice, depends on how close you set. And that would be the up-to-date thing to get, right? Well, probably 8K is the up-to-date thing to get, but
it is going to be one of the more common things you could do. Yeah. But lower is also available, so that's going to be mentioned.
He would like good HDR performance and support for Dolby Vision. Is that just a given like it would be with an OLED TV? This will be a buy once, cry once purchase for him, so the price is not the biggest factor. So which is the monitor to get for him?
So yeah, I just wanted to adjust first that when it comes to computer monitors, having Dolby Vision support is not a given. And not just from Samsung, because Samsung is a popular computer monitor brand in addition to being a popular television brand where the company themselves just seem to be outright against supporting Dolby Vision. So not just Samsung computer monitors, it is definitely not a given in a computer monitor that it's going to support Dolby Vision. Most HDR-capable TVs do at this point, but computer monitors, it's a feature you actually have to look for and make sure that it has it if that's something that you
All right,
that you
I'm going to
want,
let you answer this question. If you have to go on to the next one, next part of this question, go ahead. But I need to go get some more coffee.
Okay, it's that much of a priority. But there you go. So yeah, for this first part here, if we're saying that, hey, the price is not like a major priority, that we're not too worried about the price is going to be paid here. Yeah, the one that's coming out on top right now, and this is like via objective measurement, if you want sort of the cream of the crop that's out there right now. Yeah, you said you're not totally up on current model numbers, and boy, oh boy, this is not going to be a memorable one in any of the cases coming up, but Asus right now is coming out on top when it comes to 27-inch OLED monitors, and specifically this is a QD, so a quantum dot OLED, meaning that they are getting these panels from Samsung using the all-blue OLED backplane with red and green quantum dots to create those primary colors. So the full model number is the Asus ROG Republic of Gamers Swift is the series. This is an OLED. It's the PG27 UCDM. And yes, you do need to be careful because there are others that are like very similar numbers and letters. It's not an easy thing to remember, and Asus has a whole bunch of them. But specifically the PG27 UCDM is the one that's coming out on top in all of the objective measurements. So the MSRP on this one is $1,200, $1,199. Certainly not inexpensive. 240 hertz refresh rate. Couple of things on here is it does have full support for DisplayPort 2.1a, which is the 80 gigabits per second. It is a 4K resolution monitor, so with that 80 gigabits per second via DisplayPort 2.1a, you could actually import a 4K 240 hertz native signal if your computer's graphics card is up to the task. But if you're connecting a console for your gaming, it also supports HDMI 2.1 at 40 gigabits per second. So your PlayStation 5 Pro, your Xbox Series X, ready to go, support anything that they can do. This does support Dolby Vision. It is 99% of DCI P3 color space. Accurate color, very calibratable and accurate EOTF, that's the electro-optical transfer function for HDR, accurate tracking and all of those things, especially after calibration. So that's why it's coming out on top. It is supporting Display HDR's VISA's Display HDR 400 True Black specification, which gives you brighter full screen brightness during HDR content, but you have the choice of switching it over to the Peak 1000 setting for brighter HDR highlights while the overall image is a little bit dimmer. So depending on your movie watching or content creation, you have that choice with this. So yeah, overall, that is the one that is scoring the highest on most of the objective measurements out there, but you are paying a price for that $1,200. So he does go on to ask, what if he were to make the price a bigger factor in this decision? What would be the top like value choice, and then what would be a quote unquote budget option if he really wants to just get the price down, and what would he be giving up in either of those cases versus this top Asus recommendation that I just made? So one that is definitely worth consideration would be Dell's Alienware. It's under that sub-brand that Dell owns, the Alienware sub-brand. Again, Mesa letters and numbers, and you have to be kind of specific because they got a whole bunch of them with similar looking letters and numbers. But the Alienware AW2725Q, another 27-inch monitor, another 4K resolution monitor. So this one is $900, so that $300 savings there. Now, objectively, it's a little bit dimmer. It's not quite as bright as the Asus, so that's one thing that you're giving up there. And it does not have that DisplayPort 2.1a support, so it doesn't have the 80 gigabits per second. So you're not actually inputting 4K at 240 hertz into this Dell Alienware. It will be, doing its own refresh rate upsampling from a 120 120 hertz signal that it can support. Objectively, the EOTF tracking for HDR is not quite as accurate as the Asus. It's slightly over brightening in the dark levels, and not completely perfectly tracking that EOTF, and that's not something you can totally manually calibrate away from. So those are the little things. These are not like gigantic glaring errors by any means, but that's why the Asus can sort of justify its $300 price, higher price tag there. But the Dell Alienware, the AW2725Q, does still support Dolby Vision. So then, if we're looking to get the price down, the one I'm going to point to as the quote-unquote budget solution in this case is certainly not really budget, because we're still talking $700. But this is sort of making the argument of why you might look at the other ones and say it is justified. We're going back to Asus for this pick. Again, the Republic of Gamers. This is in the Strix series. And so this is a different type of OLED. This is not quantum dot OLED. The previous two were. This is LG's panels using their WOLED panels. And this mess of letters and numbers, we got an XG27 AQDMG. I don't know why. Asus, what are you doing? But yeah, what you're giving up here, and this is pretty significant stuff, right? We're going down to a 1440p resolution panel instead of 2160p. So this is lower resolution. Like I said, we're switching to WOLED instead of quantum dot OLED. This is WOLED with micro lens array though, so it's pretty much every bit as bright as the other Asus, but with a different panel technology. But this does not have Dolby Vision, and it also does not have HDMI 2.1, let alone DisplayPort 2.1. Definitely not. But because it's 1440p, it doesn't really need HDMI 2.1 to do 1440p at 120 hertz. So that's why they made that distinction there. So yeah, I mean, it's a $200 savings, but this is one where I'm like, if not wanting to pay $1,200, I totally understand, but I would, certainly consider the Dell Alienware, because that's a very small downgrade. But I'm not sure I would go all the way down to the Asus Strix XG27 AQDMG. I'm not sure I'd go all the way down there. If you want to go even less expensive than that, then of course you're going to be essentially going away from OLED at that point. And I didn't really look up recommendations there because, we know for this particular case, it's like he is willing to pay the money, but it's just, $1,200 might be a little bit rich for some people for a 27-inch monitor, which I would totally understand.
Mohsen, an Australian. First up, Mohsen upgraded his old ultra short throw projector on the Nexi Go Aurora Pro Mark II that we recommended to him. Overall, he's pretty happy with it. He also added some black velvet around the screen that does seem to have helped to maximize the perceived contrast. He typically likes to be able to just set and forget his picture settings, but he's finding that from movie to movie, some just look overall too dark, while others seem to have crushed highlights. He can tweak his settings on a movie-by-movie basis to get each one of them to look amazing, but it's become rather frustrating to have to pause every movie and adjust the settings every time.
Yeah.
He pretty much just uses his NVIDIA Shield Pro, and since this ultra-short throw projector supports it, he's having it output Dolby Vision at all times unless he specifically wants to watch something in SDR. Is that the problem? Or could using the NVIDIA Shield's Dolby Vision output actually be the solution? Could he adjust the Shield's tone mapping to override the projector's image processing? Or would it actually make more sense to have more than one picture mode on his projector so that he can quickly switch between low, medium, and high brightness calibrations depending on how each movie looks? Could a different source device make all of this better? Maybe a Zidu or a Ugus? I
don't know. I haven't seen that brand name.
I have no
before.
idea what that is.
I don't know that one.
AM6B Plus, both of which he has seen praised for their Dolby Vision processing. What's the best way to handle this? If you're having everything output as Dolby Vision at all times, and you're having problems with your picture being inconsistent, there's no world in which I think that's not the problem. I mean, I would be shocked if it wasn't the problem.
Yeah, because
I would think it would be a problem. It would cause problems that wouldn't be there normally, yes.
Yeah, you're relying on the source device to take every type of content and put it into a Dolby Vision container, because that's really all that's happening. It's not like it's actually creating frame-by-frame Dolby Vision metadata. It's just putting it into a Dolby Vision container, and then your projector, naturally, once that flag is inserted into the signal coming from the source device, is going, okay, well, this is a Dolby Vision signal, so I'll show it according to the metadata that I'm getting. So yeah, first and foremost, I would definitely try not using Dolby Vision.
Yeah.
And I might say not using Dolby Vision across the board. Because honestly, even though, yes, this is an ultra short throw projector that has the Dolby Vision logo on its box and has a mode that recognizes Dolby Vision signals and goes into that, it's like projectors just don't genuinely do Dolby Vision. There's no content that's really been mastered with projectors in mind in Dolby Vision. They're using nit levels that are too high, so when that metadata comes across, there's so much tone mapping that has to be applied that is not the least bit surprising that a lot of content looks overexposed and the highlights are blown out, and a lot of content looks far too dark.
Yeah.
So I would first of all try just having your NVIDIA, because like, look, I totally understand someone who says for the convenience of not having black pauses whenever the content changes, I would rather just pick one particular type of output from my NVIDIA Shield where that's predominantly what I use, and just let the projector like accept that same signal type at all times. And I totally understand saying, hey, I got a projector that has the Dolby Vision logo on it. Isn't that the best? Isn't that the one I want to use? There's nothing that I don't understand about that. But because you've now run into things where you're like, this isn't really working the way I envisioned, the way I wanted it to, try setting your NVIDIA Shield to just output HDR10 at all times, because then it is not trying to do its own funky tone mapping before things. It's just kind of, yes, once again, throwing things into an HDR10 container, but now your projector is actually getting a much more consistent signal. It's like, oh, hey, I'm getting the same static metadata telling me that everything coming in here is 1,000 nits. Whether that's truly accurate or not, it's much more consistent. And now your projector can just do a much more consistent job of tone mapping in the same way, rather than trying to dynamically adjust itself on metadata that isn't really in the original signal. It's being inserted artificially by your source device. That is not a guarantee. It's just something that's quite easy to try, right? Instead of, hey, I set my NVIDIA Shield to always output Dolby Vision, I have now set it to always output HDR10. How does that go? What you might discover is that, yes, some content might still look a little bit blown out, the highlights blown out, and some content might still look overall just too dark. I have no problem with creating more than one picture setting mode where you can just switch between picture modes, which is a relatively easy thing to do on your remote, on your projector. Like, yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. If you're like, look, there's basically three scenarios, one where it looks about right, one where it looks overblown, and one where it looks too dark. So I'll create three separate picture modes, and I'll switch between them instead of like literally fiddling with the brightness and contrast settings and the gamma setting for everything on a movie by movie basis. To me, it makes much more sense to have three preset picture modes, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. I've done that on plenty of flat panel TVs for hey, this is the TV I've got in my living room. Sometimes I'm watching during the day, sometimes I'm watching at night. And if I have it bright enough to be really pleasant during the day, it's actually kind of searingly bright at night. Yeah. So I have two separate picture modes, a day mode and a night mode. Absolutely. That's a very common thing to do. So could switching to a different device that has a different way of doing its own, hey, I'm putting everything in a Dolby Vision container, and therefore doing its own version of tone mapping. So, I mean, the Zidu would be kind of problematic in that, like, NVIDIA Shield, I assume you're doing some streaming off of that and maybe running Plex or MB or some other media browser type of thing. The Zidu can certainly do the media browsing thing, but by default, it cannot do the streaming. It doesn't support video streaming, the Zidu boxes. Now, people, of course, have hacked the things because it's, just running a version of Android underneath. So people have hacked it to be able to put streaming services onto Zidu devices. But out of the box, it's not natively supported. And then you're putting like the mobile Android streaming things onto a set-top box. And that definitely results in glitches sometimes. I just don't think it's going to be the smoothest set it and forget it streaming experience if you went that way. The Dolby Vision processing on the Zidu, it's not immune to the same problems that you're still experiencing. It is processing things on a frame-by-frame level. It's doing its best, but when you're putting all of that into a display that absolutely in no way can ever reach 1,000 nits, it's going to come out weird sometimes. It's going to come out overly dark sometimes, or highlights that have just blown out to white. I have no familiarity with the Goose AM6B Plus. I have no idea how to pronounce that brand name. I have no familiarity with that, but it certainly just looks like an Android box, right? It's an Android TV box, not surprisingly. So yeah, similar thing there. It'll do its best. Maybe some movies it'll look better than your Shield is doing right now, but others ones it's going to look just as bad or worse. That's how these things go. Nobody's creating magic out there. So yeah, those are all the thoughts and all the solutions that I can point to.
Yeah. So he's always adjusting things in his theater, but based on the most recent photos he has sent, what do we think about his overall setup? And can we pay particular attention to his current speaker placement? Anything that doesn't look right to us is there anything that doesn't look right to us that he should change? So he's got the projector we talked about, Nexigo, whatever it is, Aurora Pro, something. 120-inch screen. It's gray. It's a ALR screen, which it usually goes with ultra short throw projectors, but not necessarily. Sure. NVIDIA Shield Pro. He's got a ToneWinner processor, a ToneWinner amp, 11 channels, and a Fosse amp for his tactile transducers. He's got a 9.4.4.
It's not actually. I guess yeah. The 4 was the. I can't remember exactly what was going on with the 4, but it's also like 9.2.4 channel count wise. But yeah,
he's got 2 subwoofers and 2 tactile transducers.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Is how he's getting the 4.
Yeah.
But he's got clip speakers all the way around.
All of it.
And all of its clip speakers. He's got a couple of PP3000 subs from SVS and a couple of transducers, it looks like.
Tactile transducers from Dayton.
And a mini DSP 2x4 for the subs in order to do the tactile transducing, I'm guessing. UMIC 1 for measurement, and then he's got the Spears and Munsell disc for whatever. So, what do I think of his speaker placement? I mean, why don't you just put the wide speakers on top of the other speakers, because they're there's almost no discernible difference, like 3 degrees difference between them, from where you're sitting.
I mean, it's a little more than 3, but I don't think we're in the 15-degree gap just there yet.
Which you kind of need. Okay. So you've got the speakers, so I'm not gonna insult the speakers. Let's put it to you that way.
Those are reference Premiere speakers. I like those speakers a lot.
Oh no, I mean I'm not gonna insult the fact that you've got them set up.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, he's got. It's not like at this point he's asking me if I think he should get wide speakers because they're already there. So whatever, put them there. I don't care. And these are all reasonable speakers as far as the placement. Your seats that are very wide are not getting the best audio, that's for sure. You certainly don't need a light rejecting screen in a blacked out theater, but
right. So I mean, that's a screen that he had before. His room did not used to be this blacked out. This is something that over time he has made this room darker and darker and darker. So that's fine. I mean, that is something where eventually the screen could be replaced. Maybe it goes a little bit larger. How challenging would that be? Because he is working against where the door is placed in here.
Yeah, I don't really think
obviously
got much more room unless he wants to get a drop down screen that he could put up.
Or go very uncentered, right?
Yes.
But
which would be hard to do in this. It's already like those left speakers are already so on top of each other. I don't know that you could move it more to the left.
Exactly. So I mean, if there's let's imagine that you could literally do anything in this room, including like changing where the door is structured, which is not a realistic thing. It's like, we're aware that this is not a perfectly symmetrical speaker placement because you had to leave a little bit more room between the center speaker and the front right speaker because of where the door is placed. Now, that is why we're able to set different distances and trim levels for our speakers.
Yes.
So, given the realities of what this room is, everything you've done in here makes a lot of sense to me. I'm not seeing something other than like, hey, I'm the front wide fan, but I was also the one saying, hey, if the pre-pro you're going to get is the ToneWinner, where the only time those front wide speakers are ever going to make a peep is when it's genuine Dolby Atmos content where they happened to actually put some sounds into the front wide speakers, because this does not do any up mixing into front wide speakers ever. I'm with Tom on this one where I'm like, do we need those front wide speakers?
This room screams 5-point. Honestly, the surround back speakers aren't far enough away from
and they're
the
also
surround
like
speakers.
very much the way the surround back speakers are shown in the image is it's like, okay, those are set up for that primary seat, the one where the headrest can go down, that is centered to the screen and centered to the
All
center
the
speaker.
headrests
Like,
can go down though.
Yeah, everything about the surround back speakers is like, hey, we are for the primary seat. Everyone else is almost, well, not almost, everyone else is kind of being compromised by the surround back speakers. The primary seat, they're getting the optimum experience, but everyone else is actually getting a compromised experience by the surround back. So, hey, I got nothing wrong with, you know what? 90% of the time, it's me that's in this room.
There's an awful lot of seats in here for it to just be him most of the time, but I suppose that's the case.
Not uncommon, right? How many theaters have we seen where the people like built 3 rows of seats and that gets used once every couple of years, and the vast majority of the time it's one person or maybe 2 people in the theater. So that doesn't freak me out or anything like that. No. I mean, I would just say that
surround back left speaker is the one that's really the problem. The surround back right speaker is much better.
Yeah, and I would just say that like I like the placement you've done for the surround speakers, the sidewall surround speakers. The placement is good, but it's like those you can just see it are some pretty darn big speakers. The notion of if those could be like a little slimmer for the times when someone is sitting in that rightmost seat or that leftmost seat, it's going to be more enjoyable for those listeners if those speakers weren't quite so. You've elevated them, which is great, and put them a little bit behind the seats, which is also great. But it's like this is optimized for the main seat. It is not optimized for any of the other seats. That's again, I don't have a problem with. That's my thought.
That's fine. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know. I would venture to say that even for that main seat, the surround backs aren't really doing that much. Not enough, at least for me. But again, the speakers are already there. So then,
exactly.
Who am I to say get rid of them? I would say at some point just turn off those speakers and see how it sounds. Just to see, because I mean, if you ever think to yourself, I wouldn't mind upgrading, or like you're saying, hey, these side surrounds are so big, it would be nice to get something else. You're like, well, the Klipsch doesn't really make what I want, but this other brand does, and I wouldn't mind upgrading all my speakers. Or some of my speakers, at least. Well, that's a lot of speakers to buy. At least test it out with a 5-point and see how it sounds would be sort of just so that you have that in the back of your mind. You may not agree, and you may find that it's completely lacking. I would be surprised if you were being honest, and that's the conclusion you came to. But it could be. I don't know what this room sounds like. You certainly have enough room treatments. You've got. I think overall. Is it something that would be aesthetically pleasing to somebody who's not into home theater, but as somebody who is into home theater, I like this a lot.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I mean, the question as asked, what do we think of the speaker placement itself? I mean, I think you have done as well as you can, particularly for that primary seat. That is clearly the focus. So my only changes I would make would be if the priority were to switch and you really are making use of all of the seats in this theater much more of the time, then I would possibly consider some changes. Yeah.
I also am we can see the front, the subwoofer at the front is off to the left between the TV and the front left speaker, and I think there's a rack there too, something there. I just wonder where the back subwoofer is.
From previous things, it is diagonally across from it, so it's not like in the rear right corner. It's doing the thing where you could draw a line from the sub at the back of the room to the sub at the front of the room, and that line would go through the center of the room. So he has placed those as we suggested. It's basically just to the right of the surround back right speaker. You just can't see it because there's a seat in the way in the image.
Yeah, so this is fine.
Absolutely.
Jack is on the hunt for a smaller TV to go in his den/office, 50 inches max. A little smaller would probably be best, and he isn't looking to spend OLED money on it. It's also highly likely it will get paused and forgotten about for hours on end from time to time. He still uses a TiVo, and if he leaves it on pause, his current TV doesn't engage its screensaver because it is still detecting an incoming video signal. My TV does not do that. Then the TV was given to me by somebody. I have no idea what it is. One other thing with his LG OLED, he figured he would just make use of its built-in apps, but doing so seems to require agreeing to let LG and their partners track everything he does. So, don't worry, EA Games is not going to do that at all once this merger goes through. They definitely won't try to recoup any of their $20 billion of debt in selling your data to literally any foreign country that wants it. The other thing, so are there any TV options out there that would let him opt out of that, or is the only real solution to buy an Apple TV 4K, which clearly still does plenty of tracking, but isn't so in your face and ad heavy about it? Well, I don't know about the tracking and all that other stuff.
I mean, I can flatly say any TV where you're using the built-in apps of the TV, it's tracking you and it's showing you ads. There is no way around. There's no brand out there that's like, well, we're not going to show you any ads and we're not going to track anything you do when you use our built-in apps. That plainly doesn't exist. The only thing you could go for is I'm going to mention this when I get specific, but like there are some brands where there is an option to do less tracking, and there's always the option to just not have it connected to the internet, but at the expense of the apps don't work anymore. It's now set up in either kind of a store mode or what they sometimes just refer to as basic TV mode, monitor mode. But then, yes, you would have to add an external streaming box to it to have your streaming services back. So yeah, flatly, there is nobody who's letting you use built-in apps without tracking all your data and showing you ads. Unfortunately. Yeah.
Right. Oh, so, am I supposed to be answering this question now?
I don't know. I don't know what was going on over on your end.
No, believe me, I got a lot of stuff going on at the same time.
Okay.
Using the Apple TV 4K thing, overall, I'm pretty happy with that box as a general streamer. I do not like the Roku interface nearly as much as I like the Apple interface.
And it's gotten worse, unfortunately, over time.
But I will say that Apple and Twitch do not like each other. So I don't know how you feel about Twitch, but they do not get along. I don't know what the deal is.
I'm not going to point you to an Amazon Fire TV device, though, because, they're the Amazon owns Twitch. Obviously, that's all integrated. But, oh, my God, has gotten using Amazon Fire TV devices become a pain. Oh, it's awful now.
So, and as much as, I don't know how the Google devices are these days, but they've never been, the Chromecast at the very least, you're like, oh, well, you just cast everything to it. Oh, sure. Sure you can.
Of all the built-in systems, if I was like, hey, I have to use the built-in apps of my TV, I would like, I'd choose the Google system as the built-in operating system. Like, I will actively avoid the new Panasonic OLEDs, which are beautiful, wonderful OLEDs, but I will actively avoid them because they went and chose Amazon Fire as the built-in OS, and I'm like, nope, I ain't putting up with that. And Roku has gotten horrible, so I'm like, of the options, the lesser evil would be the Google interface if I had to choose one. So along those lines, here's the thing, getting a 50-inch or smaller TV that I'm actually gung-ho about is not the easiest thing these days. I'm kind of the mind of I either go as cheap as I possibly can without it being offensive, or I get myself a 48-inch OLED because it's like, well, what the heck else am I going to do here? Realistically, that's not 55 inches or larger. You mentioned you don't want to particularly go for an OLED because, yes, they do cost more, and then you're worried about potentially having burn-in from admittedly being like, hey, sometimes I forget about this thing and I just leave the TV on. Now, almost all source devices these days, including cable boxes and TiVos, like they have their own screensaver, right? So you're not relying on the television's screensaver to detect that it's a static image and do its screensaver. You're relying on all of your source devices to be like, hey, I haven't moved in the past however many minutes that you can set. So the source device puts on its screensaver. So that would be one thing, is go through every source that you have plugged into this TV and make sure the source device's screensavers are all set to go on quickly. And that would reduce the harm that you might ever do to an OLED if you forget about it. And I have to say, right now, the LG 48-inch B5, so that's, from this year, it's on sale right now for $700, which of course is not chump change, but compared to being over $1,000 like it was, it's like, that's not that crazy. So if picture quality is the top priority for you, if gaming in any way is a top priority for you, but what you really need is a TV that's 50 inches or smaller, I'm like, there's nothing that's going to touch an LG B5 OLED. It's right up to date, and all the gaming and the picture quality is fantastic. It's not literally the brightest OLED in existence, but it's so much better than anything else you can get at 50 inches or smaller. But let's assume that OLED truly is out of the question. I would end up going to a Sony, not just for the picture quality, which is decent. I mean, it's direct LED backlighting, not local dimming. Sony tends to favor, hey, let's try and keep the shadow detail visible, which means on an LCD TV with no local dimming, black is not inky black, but at least you can see the above black information the way Sony processes things. So I'll take that. I'm not opposed to that. If you're watching with the lights on, it's really not such a big deal. And for the 50-inch version of their current Bravia 3, which is about the best that Sony makes at a 50-inch size or smaller. Like I say, no local dimming, and it's 60 hertz, not 120 hertz, so it's not a gaming powerhouse. But, it's $600, so it's only $100 less than that LG B5 OLED, and it does not look as good as the B5 OLED, I'll flat up say. But it's a decent regular LCD. The 50-inch size does use a VA panel, so the blacks are not terrible and the contrast is not terrible. In that Bravia 3 series, some of the sizes use IPS panels, which have atrocious black levels. But specifically the 50-inch size, which has a very skinny border, so it should fit wherever you're thinking of putting this. They do use a VA panel on that one, so it's okay. But also, it is the Google interface built in, and Sony is one of the companies where out of the box, they allow you to set it up as a basic TV, where it isn't doing all the tracking and it isn't showing you all the ads, but then it also doesn't have all of the functionality from the online built-in features, so you're probably going to want to add a streaming box to it. If those prices are just too high, and I would totally understand that this is obviously a secondary system, it's not his primary home theater system, maybe he just wants to go cheaper. I mean, I'm left with no alternative but to suggest a TCL QM5K series. $350 for the 50-inch on sale right now. You're not going to beat it for $350 on sale. It does actually have full array local dimming, although not a ton of zones, of course, being in the QM5 series, but it does have some full array local dimming. And it's still a 60 hertz panel, though, so it's not doing 120 hertz for gaming or anything like that. But, it's still Google interface, but TCL does not give you the option of, hey, set this up as a basic TV. It's like, yeah, if you want to get into the menu, it's tracking you. That's how they get the price down to $350, is they are selling your data, and they're not going to let you turn that off.
Yeah. You got to get a separate box, but even then they're going to be doing something.
And to get away from the constant ads and the tracking, you actually have to pay more. They're subsidizing the price with that selling your data. That's how it gets cheaper.
Right. RAF in Australia. RAF appreciated our advice last week regarding the 1x2 by 2 inch thick fiberglass panels with adhesive on the back that he found online. He was considering sticking a bunch of them together to make thicker corner base straps, since his current acoustic treatments are all at most 2 inches thick and covered with scatter plates on the front. That was the room that was throwing me.
Yeah, he sent some new images that don't use the lens that warps the geometry. So he's like, it's not quite so long and skiddy. That was the lens he used before. But this is still not a gigantic room, and this is still an enclosed room. So yes.
Based on what he said, making 4-inch or 6-inch thick panels and only having them in the front two corners probably isn't enough to make an audible and worthwhile difference. What if we were to make even thicker panels and essentially cover the entire front wall behind his TV with them? He's not particularly keen to alter the rest of the room at the moment, but if the entire front wall, floor to ceiling, is up for grabs, would that be enough to make a substantial difference? And how thick would the panels need to be in that case? So the front wall, let's see here.
Which is treated right now, but he's like, he's willing to change how that front wall goes. He does have some space back there. So out of everything, that's where he could put substantially thicker panels without drastically changing anything else.
Yeah, you could put like a 4 or 6 inch floor to ceiling panels there with a gap. 2 inch, 3 inch gap or something like that. I don't know how much space he's got. And get yourself, a real bass. I mean, it's like a live end, dead end, but except there's no live end in here. Just another, space to absorb. So that would definitely do something. I don't know. I don't know how. So the problems with room treatments as sort of as a thing that you experience is generally it's hard to notice what you're not hearing.
Right.
So if you are going from a room that had a serious singular bass problem where you're every time this scene happens and this note plays, I can hear how bad it is.
Right.
And then you put a bunch of bass traps in there, or you put a bunch of room treatments, and all of a sudden you're like, man, it's not there anymore. It's dramatic. It's a dramatic difference. Most of the time, though, what it is everything's just kind of better, but it tends to sound quieter. And that's what you notice. So without you having like, hey, every time, this helicopter goes over in this movie, my whole room just rings like a bell. Putting this bass trap in here might make that lesser or go away, and you're suddenly going, man, that really made a difference. Or it might just be like, I don't know, man, I think it sounds better. I don't really know. And then all of a sudden the bass hits and you're like, wow, this bass sounds a lot cleaner than before. But is that because of it seems a more subtle difference. So I think it will make a difference. I think it's worthwhile doing, especially if you can get at least a 4 inch thick, if not 6 inch thick panel with from floor to ceiling with a 2 or 3 inch gap behind.
Right.
I think that there will definitely be a objective, measurable difference in your room's response. Yeah. And your bass response in your room.
And audible difference.
And which will be audible. But there's audible and there's noticeable. You know what I mean? Sure. What you'll actually notice during content. And it may take you a little while to, I want to use air quotes, realize the difference, which just means notice the difference.
Yeah. I was saying before last week that it's like there's a lot of high frequency treatment in this room right now. Yeah. And then he's got dual subs, although they're both at the front of the room, but fully variable phase on those, and he's played around with that to get the low bass response sort of treated. What we're dealing with right now is this room, I would imagine if you graphed out the decay times across all the audible frequencies, it's like I don't think we're getting even uniform decay times in here. There's sort of a mid-range, lower mid-range, upper bass gap in the treatment plan right now. And so normally, the rule of thumb there is, hey, if we can get 10 to 15% of the total surface area of this room covered in bass trapping, and I'm talking broadband, full spectrum bass trapping, then that's going to go a long way in getting the overall decay times throughout the entirety of the audible frequency range in this room to be much more uniform, much more even across everything. So that would really be my goal here. So, just roughly eyeballing the surface area of this room, it's like if the entire front wall were covered in proper bass trapping, broad spectrum, full frequency bass trapping, I think we're getting kind of close to that 10% mark. It's certainly not a completely naked room in the rest of it. Yeah. So you're not dealing with flutter echo in here. You're not dealing with slap echo in here, but you are dealing with most likely uneven decay times getting into the bass. So, as Tom was saying, very often we'll suggest, hey, to save on money, right, you do a 4-inch thick actual insulation material, but then put a 4-inch air gap behind it. That is very effective for, helping the bass absorption itself. But in your case, I actually want like very broad spectrum, full range absorption going on because you sort of have a gap right now in your treatment plan. So, quickly over at acousticmodeling.com, I just graphed out the differences that are going on here. So this is 8 inches of total thickness, but 8 inches of pure insulation, which would be the most money. you can see is like, this is the red on that graph. The blue on the graph is 6 inches of physical insulation material with a 2-inch air gap, right? So same total 8-inch thickness, but less material that you're actually buying. And those lines are essentially superimposed. The red and the blue lines on that graph are pretty much superimposed. So you can definitely get away with not actually having 8 inches of physical insulation. 6 inches plus a 2-inch air gap, that whole rule of thumb of 1/4 of the total thickness being air, is virtually superimposed with all of it being insulation. But once we go down to, in this instance, 4 inches of insulation plus a 4-inch air gap, we see that there's this more uneven absorption result that goes on at, mid-range frequencies, which currently are untreated in your room. So my preference in this case would be, okay, it costs a little bit more money, but not maximum money, to go all the way to having 6 inches of insulation, but plus a 2-inch air gap across that front wall. If we go all the way up to 12 inches of insulation, right, on this sort of graph, we're basically looking at everything above the 0.5 mark on here. Everything above 0.5 is like, it's actually doing something. Below 0.5 on this graph, it's not really doing anything, but above 0.5 is doing something, and above 0.8, it's really doing something. So we can see it's like above 200 hertz in all of these cases. It's really going to be doing a lot. And right now, with, the thickest thing in there being 2-inch thick absorption of any kind, it's like you're really not treating down to 200 hertz. That would be very beneficial. But we're still effective down to right around 100 hertz in pretty much all of these cases. Going to 12 inches of insulation or total thickness, it's like it doesn't make a world of difference. It's nowhere near the amount of difference you would think by going that much thicker, right? 50% thicker is like barely any difference. So the value zone is that 8-inch thickness, and the money for effectiveness is 6 inches of insulation plus a 2-inch air gap. So that's my recommendation to you. If you could cover your whole front wall in that, it is going to be audible, it's going to be worthwhile, and it's not going to completely break the bank.
So if he goes ahead and covers his entire front wall, would the fabric material he would put over the insulation need to be completely acoustically transparent? Or if he were just go for thin but not entirely, you can easily blow through it material, would that be okay for front wall bass trapping? I mean, I guess it depends on how not acoustically transparent you're talking about. In theory, your small bass, the thin bass traps you have all over your room are already treating the highest of frequencies.
Well, those aren't bass traps, just the thin acoustic absorbers.
Acoustic traps. Sorry. The acoustic traps acoustic panels that you have in your room are already treating the highest of frequencies, and they have the scatter plates for whatever that's worth.
Sure.
So if you weren't to treat those highest of frequencies, it would not be the end of the world.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But you certainly don't want to have the fabric be so acoustically non-transparent, meaning that it reflects frequencies that are so low that you dip into that range of, mid-range or upper mid-range
frequencies.
That you want to treat. But I mean, it's really, I don't think that acoustically transparent fabric, or really easy to blow through fabric, is that hard to find. I don't know why that
he just might have something, or maybe he was thinking he'd put like actual poster paper on front of it or something like that.
I would not do that.
So the thing is, this can sometimes be a purposeful decision. For example, over at Acoustimac, we will sometimes say, hey, a really great choice here, not just from the looks perspective, but from an actual performance point of view, would be to use their suede fabric rather than their DMD or their Guilford of Maine or their executive fabrics, which those three are all very acoustically transparent. The suede fabric is semi-acoustically transparent. It doesn't block the sound utterly, but it doesn't fully let through the entire frequency range evenly in that suede version. Now, sometimes that's like a purposeful choice that is useful, because sometimes the thing we want to do is actually put a membrane on the front of our bass traps, which can enhance their effectiveness at lower frequencies, but at the expense of them becoming more reflective at higher frequencies. And when I'm saying higher frequencies, I don't mean treble, I mean mid-range. In your specific case, where you really don't have upper bass, lower mid-range treatment in this room yet, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be reflecting mid-range frequencies with the bass trapping that you add to your front wall. I want full spectrum, broadband, uniform absorption from the bass traps you add in here. So for your particular case, I feel very strongly that I would want to point you towards actually acoustically transparent material. That's the best choice for your scenario here.
That was a fun thing that just happened. My lord. I'm have to work on this microphone stand. I don't know what's going on.
There are some noises in this episode.
I apologize. They're all me. Rob is blameless in this. Infinite Gary. Gary has been using his portable Sony Discman D25 in his car for many years now. Man, the way this man spends money on home theater stuff, you would think he would have a newer car, but apparently not.
No. He is very proud of having a classic car.
Oh, that's okay then. I appreciate classic cars. But the other day, it seemed to have given up the ghost, so he ordered himself an inexpensive portable CD player from a brand called Monodeal, selling through Amazon's third-party marketplace. How could this go wrong? But after receiving it and going out to his car to replace his old Sony, he discovered that all that was wrong with his old Discman is that it had somehow accidentally flicked. He had somehow accidentally flicked on the hold switch, so it wasn't responding to any button presses. He'll return the new CD player he bought, but he just wanted to commiserate. Do either of us have a story about the time when we bought a piece of gear that stopped working, but it turned out to just be a case of user error? The most common thing that happens in audio is somebody buys something that plays music, and then they return it because they think it doesn't work when the volume is just set at 0. Okay. That happens all the time. Okay. I will say my biggest regret is I bought a very nice DVD player back when DVD players were very, very new. We spent a lot of money on it, or college age, a lot of money on it. And it was with some discs, it was slow during when it would transition between layers. And I returned it because of that. And then I got a different, cheaper one, which didn't have the same problem, but wasn't as nice a DVD player. And it was just that I didn't realize that was what was going on. It was a disc by disc thing. And as newer discs came out, it was having, it turned out I kept up with the reviews of it, and they were like, oh yeah, it's gotten much better. And now the newer, I'm like, oh man, which I still had that. It was gold. It was a JVC. It was gold. It was very cool. I loved it, but I ended up returning it because of that.
Okay. I was trying to think. The only one I can remember is it was one of the very first Polk audio subwoofers that I ever bought, which I recall it being a 10-inch ported sub, and it had the thing on the back where it was just RCA inputs, and it was white and red, just left and right, and I don't think they had specifically labeled the left or right one as the LFE input, back at that time. Oh, but right. This was long before I knew most things or anything like that. So I was just going by the common recommendations of, oh hey, you should always split your subwoofer signal and do that on any sub. And it's like, no, this one was really meant to use the LFE, the single input on one of the sides, if you were using a base managed AV receiver, which was not a given at the time. Having a base managed AV receiver was not a given. But yeah, it was just a thing of the levels were never working out correctly until I was like, oh, it actually works much, much better if I just use one RCA input on this thing instead of having the double gain and going through all of that. So that was a user error, that simple as that. It wasn't like a end of the world, it didn't blow anything up, but just trying to get all that dialed in and having it sound correct, it was like, following the magazine advice instead of the instruction manual.
I think the very first little sub I bought, which of course I got from Amazon, and it was like $99, and it was on the 10, like an 8-inch cube or something. It was just, and I put it in the room, which wasn't that big, but it was still too big for this thing, and it bottomed out constantly. And I was like, this thing's broken. I sent it back, and they sent me another one because I ordered this. They replaced it, and I am convinced that the one they sent me was actually broken and actually didn't work right because it never bottomed out after that. And I'm like, I don't think it's, and I never really heard it. I mean, it was doing something, but it wasn't doing much.
Just moving your subwoofer physically closer to you, regardless of room size, didn't solve the problem. I mean, that's what everyone says online. Just move it closer like a regular
Should never
speaker.
Listen to people online, by the way. That's my personal advice. Gary also says, Analog Planet reported that Revox Swiss and National Audio Company, US-based, have partnered up to reestablish an audio cassette production line so that, in addition to mastering tapes that Revox never stopped producing, they will also be able to manufacture brand new production music cassettes and blank tapes for customers. They said the goal of this alliance is to offer cassettes as a medium for high-quality playback and recording in the audio market. This allows you to experience analog sound with an audio cassette at home the way it was recorded in the studio. So what do we make of that? Is the cassette resurgence for real?
I hope it's a passing fad.
God,
I mean, everyone just said, hey, vinyl made a resurgence, so cassettes must be next, right? We just have to go in chronological order of history.
Can we do 8 tracks first before we do this?
Right. Cassettes are not good. They are inherently incapable of high fidelity sound.
I loved having cassettes as a kid because I could record things off the radio, and I had a double player where I could make copies of my friends' stuff because I couldn't afford. I loved them. They broke constantly.
They don't need to come back. They do wear, like they physically wear over time.
That's right. And believe me, I wore some of them out for sure.
I mean, for the folks who, similar thing to other recording mediums where they're like, I have this one cherished recording. It only ever was released on cassette, or I just have this thing from my childhood and it's a nostalgia thing and it's a sentimental value thing. Like, I don't have a problem with someone's like, hey, I'd like to still be able to buy a cassette tape player. And it's like, for that part of it, if they're going to still release cassette tape players, I'm kind of glad for that. I don't love when it's like, it literally becomes impossible to play old mediums. I do like that it's possible to still play that medium. But I
kind of feel like mini disc would be better to bring back than cassettes.
Hey man, it's, that came later. You got to wait a little while. It's going to make its comeback. But the notion that this is for high quality purposes, no, that's ridiculous. And the idea that it's inherently better because it's analog, like, no, please stop.
Please stop. Jason appreciated our advice last week regarding his choice of new subwoofers to replace his Velodynes in this attempt to improve the current dip around 75 hertz that he has, plus getting a flat response down to 20 hertz, which his current subs cannot do. Looking at ToneWinner's website for their specs of the SWD 4000 that we recommended, he grew a little concerned. One of the features he is looking for in particular is fully variable phase, since we said that would be necessary in order to even have a chance at addressing that 75 hertz dip in his response, given that he does not want to physically move his 2 subwoofer positions at all. But ToneWinner only mentions a built-in 0 or 180 degree phase switch on their website. So is that an oversight on our part, Rob? Or does it... Does a ToneWinner D4000 have a fully variable phase that their website just doesn't mention for some reason? I don't know.
So yeah, it was not an oversight on my part. And actually, if you want to check out Home Theater Guru's coverage of the ToneWinner subs, he goes through their app, and that is where it shows up. It's in the app. Although the adjustment is still available on the physical back panel on the sub itself, which ToneWinner mounts upside down so that you can lean over the sub and look at the back, and it'll appear right side up to you as you lean over it. That's how they've chosen to mount their little panel. So it's accessible both on the sub itself and through the app. But yeah, right there in the app, which is shown on their website, but they don't highlight it in the text. That's like in their features and specifications. They only mention the 0 or 180 degree polarity switch. So he's not wrong. That's what it says in text on the website. But there is an image, of the app where there are separate polarity and phase settings that you can adjust in the app, and like I say, on the subwoofer itself, that is available now.
Yeah, if I saw this and they said there was only a 0 or 180 switch, this phase just says 0. So
that's
clicking on it might just switch it to 180. So I think I got us back on this one.
Absolutely. Oh no, totally understandable. Yeah, it's a completely valid reason for concern. But yes, like Home Theater Guru and others, but he's just the one that I know for sure showed on screen going through the app and using that phase setting to adjust the variability of the phase. Now, they do only give you a range from 0 to 180 in that phase adjustment, but because there is also a separate polarity switch, you have a full 360 degrees, because if you flick the polarity to 180 and then adjust the phase from there, it's as if you carried on from the 180 setting when the polarity was set to 0. Now, in the video where he's showing that, it is going in 10 degree increments if you use the plus and minus buttons. And I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure that using the slider gives you more granularity than 10 degree increments at a time. But 10 degree increments is okay. It's enough to do the type of phase matching between your two across the room position subwoofers. It's enough to get the job done regardless. And yeah, if the slider actually gives you more granularity, then hey, you can drive yourself as insane as Lee Overstreet and completely, go bonkers over it.
Who? Could we elaborate a little further on our statements last week that in order to equal the 20 hertz output of a SVS PB2000 Pro with a sealed sub, you need to go all the way up in the series and price of something like the SB5000? He can see needing to go up a series of 2, but that big of a gap? Is it just that is that just an SVS versus SVS situation, and some other brands sealed subs when it requires such a large jump in price? Well, SVS is a value leader in, or they used to be the biggest value leader for a long time in entry-level subwoofers, and they still are very, very competitive. And
I would argue for sealed subs in particular, it's really tough dollar for dollar to beat SVS's value in sealed subs in particular. They can be beaten in terms of like CEA 2010 measurements, like sheer output, burst output, for lower money in ported subs. That is something you can do for sure. But sealed subs, they're kind of top of the game, honestly.
Yeah. So sealed subs in particular are problematic because they're, in order to get a lot of output out of one, because it's sealed and because it's small, you're fighting physics.
You are.
And the only way to overcome the physics of it is to basically get a very large amplifier, shoehorn it in there, and then have a driver that's not going to distort as you're pushing.
And some DSP control to fully optimize that, like every bit of wattage can get out of that amplifier into that driver without distorting like crazy.
So when the solution is just to make a bigger box with a port in it, to make it small and to make it loud, you cannot make it cheap. It's just not really possible to do that feasibly for a company, for any company.
Sure.
I mean, you in particular might be like, oh, I've got this driver lying around and I can do this and I've got this and I can make all these compromises and therefore it's only going to cost me $100. Well, okay, but you couldn't do it for 10,000 people for $100 each. You just couldn't do it. And that's kind of what happens here.
To elaborate, though, because it is a very valid thing, if you're just looking at like average output levels, then you're going to say, hey, wait a second. But according to the average output level spec, the SB5000 is putting out considerably more output than the PB2000 Pro, and that is completely true at like 50 and 60 hertz. At those frequencies, the SB5000 is considerably louder, and you really, I mean, honestly, an SB2000 Pro at 60 hertz can equal the output of a PB2000 Pro because the larger box and the porting is not really contributing a whole lot at that little bit higher base frequency. It's mostly just the movement of the driver in either case. So this is a very valid thing to need elaboration on, because I really was talking about the 20 hertz output, right? That is one of the things he wanted to improve upon his current Velodynes that begin rolling off at 40 hertz and are significantly down in their output in his room. It was an in-room measurement he took, and they're significantly quieter at 20 hertz, and that's something he wants to improve. I'm like, to do that with a sealed sub, to get similar 20 hertz output from a sealed sub where 100% of the output is the movement of the driver and there is no help coming from a resonant port in any way whatsoever, and there's no passive radiator on those subs either that works somewhat similarly to a port. 100% coming from the driver to equal the 20 hertz output, you have to go more than you would imagine to equal that 20 hertz output. But I mean, it really is the 20 hertz output. And I mean, yes, the 25 hertz output as well. In the 50 hertz or 60 hertz range, the SB5000 is completely obliterating the output levels of a PB2000 Pro. And so would an SB4000, and an SB3000 would be slightly more at 50 and 60 hertz. But 20 hertz, that very low output where the port is contributing a lot, that's where the giant gap in price and series comes into play. okay? And you're not going to find a lot of other sealed subs out there that, due to SVS using that carefully tuned DSP control, they're actually getting more 20 hertz output out of their sealed subs than most other manufacturers out there.
You can get low and loud.
Right.
You can get small, and you can get cheap. Pick two.
Yeah.
Those are the options. Nathan. So Nathan wanted to, self-admittedly, get a little pedantic. We're okay with that, right?
Sure are.
No. Sorry. We're going to skip this question and go on to somebody who's not pedantic, because I got enough of that nonsense in my life. I have a 16-year-old son. Pedantic is his go-to argument.
Right.
Last week, we talked about Perlison's DPC, or Directivity Pattern Control, using their tweeter waveguide and additional tweeters above and below the main tweeter in the case of their S and R series speakers. But during our discussion, we seem to use the term directivity and dispersion interchangeably. That isn't right, is it? Yes, it is. Shut up.
They are related.
His understanding is that dispersion refers only to the shape of the sound wave pattern that's emitted by the speaker. So the dispersion could be like a hemisphere or cardioid or a cylinder or a sphere or whatever. Very simplified, we could say the dispersion is wide or narrow. But directivity refers to the consistency of that dispersion pattern. So with speakers, we'll often see the term constant directivity, meaning the off-axis response is the same as the on-axis response. But a speaker with constant directivity could have wide dispersion or narrow dispersion. It's just that whatever its dispersion happens to be, within that dispersion pattern, the response is consistent. So if Perlison is specifically calling their new design directivity control, if he is correct about the precise meaning of the term, which no one's saying they're being precise, you're saying technically... and believe me, as somebody who often says, well, technically, I'm with you on this. But that doesn't mean that that's what they're talking about, because they're not talking necessarily to you. They're talking to everybody, right? So if he is correct about the precise meaning of that term, they're really just saying that they use it to create consistent on and off axis frequency response, but doesn't inherently tell us whether the dispersion is wide or narrow or whatever it is. So does he have that correct? And if so, what are our thoughts? And how does all that relate back to Perlison's designs? Again, it doesn't. I don't think. I think that they are essentially saying they are using that term in the most loose. I mean, maybe they're not, but
it's a whole team of engineers over at Perlison. They are nothing but engineers.
But they're not the ones writing the marketing. They're not the ones on the marketing part of it. The marketing people are asking. This is my belief. I don't know. The marketing people ask questions of engineers, lock on to something, and use it where the engineers basically squirm in their seats. Go, well, technically, you're not wrong, and that's good enough for them. And it gets printed.
Right.
So Rob will take you through the whole thing, but sometimes people use language to deceive in a way that's like, well, I know what this word actually means, and I'm using it in that way, but the general public believes it's this other way, and if that's what they believe, it's not my fault they're stupid, and therefore we can put it in our marketing material. The other way is, I'm going to use it in the most general sense. And while it's not technically true in the very specific sense, it's true enough that we're not going to get sued. And I think that's, that's what happens.
They've got the words that are necessary in there. Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, Nathan is correct. Dispersion means the sound wave pattern. What is the dispersion of this speaker? Is it a hemisphere? Is it a cylinder? Is it a cardioid? That's what the dispersion is of the speaker. And then directivity, specifically the word directivity in audio, is a quantifiable measure. There's a directivity index, and that is essentially a ratio of the intensity of the sound coming out of that speaker at various angles. So, right, you take it to the NRC in Canada and you do the spinorama measurement, or you put a Klippel machine onto it and that microphone goes around mechanically, controlled, and you get the measure of what is the sound intensity at all these various angles, and it's a ratio of that, direct versus off-axis sound that gives you your quantifiable directivity index. So yes, Nathan is completely correct about the precise meanings of those two different words. What ends up happening, of course, when we're speaking more casually about it, is that we use additional words such as wide even dispersion, right? Which is a very common phrase that we say on this podcast all the time. Wide even dispersion. And actually that word even is doing a heck of a lot of work, because the word even is really meaning the directivity. We're saying that if dispersion is wide, that's one thing. It's a wide dispersion pattern. It's not a beam. It's not a planar wave. It's a wide, probably hemispherical type of dispersion. So those two words go together. But the word even, what is an even dispersion if we don't actually say what the shape is? Yeah. Even is mostly meaning, well, it's wide dispersion with even directivity. It's consistent directivity along with a wide dispersion pattern. And so, yes, of course, it's very hard to say that when we're talking about measuring various angles of the sound coming out, like that relates to the dispersion, because if it's a very narrow dispersion pattern, then as you get outside of that angle, outside of that dispersion cone, well, then the intensity is going to drop way off versus the on-axis response. So the two things end up being related. So this goes back to the specific words that are being used here by Perlison, because they're calling it directivity pattern control. And the word pattern is doing a lot of work there, because pattern relates to dispersion, not directivity directly. So what they're saying there is we're doing a couple of things with our...
I can literally feel the engineers squirming in their seats as the marketing people are like, right. Well, what if we put the word pattern in there?
Yeah.
What if we put pattern in there? Would that make it... There's like, if I had to put you on a stand in front of a judge, could you defend this marketing if I put the word pattern in there? And the engineer's like, well, I guess,
yeah, because this is a case of, well, which is it? Is it directivity? Is it directivity control, where we're saying, hey, we're not actually telling you what the dispersion is, but we're controlling the directivity index, which is something they're doing? Or is it pattern control? Are we changing the shape of the sound wave that comes out of this speaker? But hey, maybe at certain points the directivity index is higher or lower. And they're like, well, it is both. Like, we're putting it in a wave guide, which is about the dispersion. The wave guide is about the dispersion, but it's also somewhat about the directivity, because we're saying, hey, by having this wave guide specifically shaped, we can make sure that the off-axis response is similar to the on-axis response, and that it's wide, and that it's uniform. And then we're also going to put a driver above and below the tweeter so that we're actually narrowing the dispersion in the vertical plane. In that way, we're narrowing the dispersion, but we're keeping the directivity index high so that within that cone, it's staying very consistent. So it's like, it's directivity and it's dispersion control, but they didn't want to call it DDC for some reason, so they call it DPC, and they're like, hey, pattern kind of connotes dispersion, and when we directly said directivity, and we're controlling both of them, so that's how you end up with a word like that. But that is what's going on. They are controlling both. They are altering the native dispersion of just a 1-inch dome tweeter by putting it in a waveguide and having drivers that are playing the same frequencies above and below it. You're altering the dispersion pattern in the horizontal and the vertical. And then through the crossover and the specific placement of those drivers, we're altering the directivity of that to make sure that it's as uniform and even as possible. So yeah, whether we're saying wide even dispersion or they're saying directivity pattern control, we're actually combining those two words by the adjectives we're using to describe them rather than directly saying the words.
Well, actually,
I think that's pedantic enough, is it not?
That's pretty pedantic. Actually, I mean, if you think about it, what it really means is, shut up. Jason has a dedicated theater room in his basement, but in terms of where his wife and daughters, mostly his wife, generally prefer to watch shows, it's upstairs in the wide open family room, and that is far from ideal in terms of audio. The family room itself, this is why I only allow one, I say allow like I have any control. I only want one TV in my house, and I want it to be in the theater room because we don't have to deal with this nonsense. The family room is roughly 19 feet long by 18 feet wide by 10 feet high, but of course, is wide open to the rest of the house. They've got a 55-inch LG B6 OLED that is wall mounted over to the left side of the fireplace because of, optimal placement. Right next to a large wall of windows on the left, audio is being handled by a small Roku soundbar at the moment. And as we can imagine, it really isn't cutting it. Stop watching it up there. Take the TV down. You got robbed. They just took the TV and they smashed the Roku bar on the front porch. I don't know why they did that and why they did it so thoroughly and with such malice. Acoustic treatments are, simply put, not going to happen in here, but he does have the option of installing retractable curtains over the large windows to the left side. The previous owner installed 3 RCA cable runs that go from the front of the room behind the TV to the back wall. There will be no acceptance of visible wires or a bunch of speakers in here, but he was thinking those RCA pre-wired runs might allow him to connect a subwoofer at the back of the room somewhere behind the sectional coat sofa. Talk about the least integrated subwoofer in the history of subwoofers. Can you use these? These are, I'm sure this is component. It's what it looks like. It looks like component video, which would be perfectly fine for running a subwoofer.
Well, I mean, it's just red, white, yellow. So this is going all the way back to a composite video and a left and right.
I would still audio, I would plug the yellow one in and call it a day.
Absolutely. Yep.
It would be absolutely fine. So, but again, there's going to be maybe 8 kilohertz down to like 300 hertz, and then nothing down to 80. Between that and 100 or 120, wherever you set your subwoofer up at. But yeah, good job. Good luck with that. The TV stand below the TV is 41 inches wide, and while a bigger soundbar will be acceptable, having it hanging over the edges or being unsightly in any way is a no-go. The TV was stolen. And we have to watch in the basement because tariffs. The budget for a potential audio system upgrade is around $500. That's not a budget. You can't even get a computer monitor for that around here. The more you can tout this as being a good deal, the more likely it is to get approved. He came across the smaller Sennheiser Ambio soundbar on eBay for under $500. Is that as good as it's going to get? Or can we point to something else that will provide a genuine sound quality upgrade while fitting all the other parameters? Yeah, so, I mean, at this point, literally anything is better than what you have.
I mean, we can point to a sound quality upgrade. It's not, obviously, it's not going to be to the level of your home theater, but that's fine. You have your home theater. It's, to be honest, not going to be up to the quality that I would personally want for the family room, but it will be better than the teeny tiny little Roku soundbar.
Let's not call it better. Let's call it louder, maybe? Maybe louder?
No, it'll
maybe
be better.
Somewhat lower?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, because the room itself, I mean, this is, when you say open to the rest of the house, this man's not joking. There's stairs,
yes.
There's openings, there's hallways, there's windows everywhere.
Yeah. And nary an acoustic treatment in sight. And these are some pretty unobstructed, flat, reflective surfaces in a lot of this room, especially that
just
back
the world
wall.
I live in right now.
Oh boy, is that back wall. Honestly, you wouldn't get agreement to have decoration on that bare back wall behind there, which, hey, decoration can be doubling as an acoustic treatment. That, just put an art panel on there. That's got to be acceptable. I've never seen the situation where the decorating committee is like, no,
they
must be
decorated the fireplace. Look at the fireplace. It's got art all over the thing, or kids stuff, or whatever is. Just, you know what? I think that you could use push pens in an acoustic panel to hang your kids' artwork as well. Just stick it in there.
I mean, it sure looks like that sectional sofa is pretty darn close to that back wall, if not right against it. So
why is it so far away?
Having acoustic, from a 55-inch TV, this is not optimal. But that has to be an 8K TV, Tom. If that's not 8K,
it better be. I hope it's a 16K. You should upgrade that. No, what you should do is get a bigger TV, but just put it vertically instead of horizontally, so it fills that whole space.
But
10 feet long,
truly
1.25 to 1 screen, but vertical.
having some
to the ceiling.
Having some treatment on that back wall would go a long, long way, and it can be decoration. That is definitely going to be a consideration.
Don't worry about it.
On my mind. But yeah, so I mean, look, I want to just answer the question as it was asked. Can I point to anything for $500 or less that I would say is an upgrade? And my very first thought is to get a pair of powered bookshelf speakers.
I got no room for them though.
They're essentially going to be sounding like mono if they're just going on that TV stand.
They're going to be mono from that far away anyways. You might as well stack them on top of each other. You could lay them down. I'll be honest with you. Obviously, we're talking $500. So, but any self-powered, I think Polk speakers we've reviewed around here. I mean, obviously the Kefs would be right out of your budget, but if you could find something used or something like that, lie them on their sides. They're
lie them on their sides.
You know, who cares where the tweeter is?
Really?
I mean, even for the non-Kef ones that aren't concentric designs, who cares?
I am not concerned that anyone is not going to get a good Phantom Center image. It's pretty much mono. No, but I mean, just I'm going to point to the Fluence, their largest ones, the AI61, as far as bookshelf speakers go, because I don't see where towers are going to go in here, and then for less than $500. So the AI61s, 6.5 inch.
On the ground on one side, lay one on the ground on the other side of the fireplace. Just lay them on the ground. Who cares? Just put some door stops underneath them to aim them up a little bit.
But a nice 6.5 inch woofer, and then there's 4 different finish options for the Fluence AI61s. I was looking at the room, and I just the image I chose to show on YouTube and in our Flickr album, I went with the lighter colored finish, the white front and the nice light wood finish there. But they got 3 other finish options. One of them might be to your liking. Certainly fits the budget at $350 for the pair. And then these do have an RCA subwoofer output with a proper crossover that activates automatically when you plug it in. So it's like, okay, checks all the boxes, and I will flat out say that I would expect it to sound noticeably better than the little Roku soundbar. It's not going to be the be-all, end-all, but I would say it's an audio upgrade that will be, rather obvious. Now, if the form factor is just a no-go and it's got to be a soundbar form factor, about the best I could come up with is relatively new, but it's Klipsch's new Flexus series of soundbars, their Core 200 model, which right now over at Crutchfield is $575. So right there, it's a little over the budget, but it is possible to find this, on sale or from other retailers right around $500. One thing I kind of liked is they actually have 2 different finish options. You don't often see that in soundbars, especially, under $1,000 soundbars, but they have one that isn't just black. They, of course, have a black option, but they have one that is, got this walnut top and this kind of gray finish, might blend in, might be more acceptable aesthetically. It does have an RCA subwoofer output. It of course will work with Klipsch's own wireless soundbar subs that they sell separately, but it does have an RCA subwoofer output, so that is going to be an option with this. The possible downside with this option is that sorry, what was it? Oh, yeah, it's a little too wide. It's 44 inches wide. The width of the cabinet is 44 inches. You're saying that TV stand is only 41 inches, so it'll be 1.5 inches hanging over either edge. I don't know if that's going to be an aesthetic faux pas to the point that it's unacceptable. It's kind of close, but it's just, this actually has a horn-loaded tweeter for the center. It actually has a dedicated set of drivers for the center, which to me is important in a soundbar. Again, it's all going to sound mono from where you are, but when it comes to the way soundbars produce their sound, to me, that's something I definitely have an eye on. So Klipsch's Flexus Core 200, I think, is potentially a soundbar option. I would personally spend less and get the Fluence bookshelf speakers, but those are 2 things that I think check the boxes you were asking for. Don't expect the world, but they'll be better than your little Roku soundbar.
I'd get the self-powered speakers. I put a link into the AV Gadgets review I did at the AI 41s,
the little smaller woofer. Yeah.
A little smaller one.
And they do have their RI71, which are more expensive, but still just at the $500 price point with the folded ribbon tweeter. But it's a smaller woofer, and I'm like, you're just looking for output and as much reasonable bass extension as you can go for in here to cross over to a sub. So I'm not particularly worried about, trying to have a higher quality tweeter or something like that.
All right. Do we have anything left?
That was it for the questions. I mean, I haven't erased everything that Saucy had to say about the Audio Advice live show, which is months in the past at this point. But, we're at the 2-hour mark. We answered all the questions. I think we're fine.
All right, we want to thank our listeners of the week. We want to thank Raph for going to avrant.com and clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and sending us a PayPal donation, as well as our 128 patrons over at patreon.com.
Yeah, for sure. Raph, thank you so much for that PayPal donation. Second one in as many weeks, so that's very generous of you. Thank you. And patreon.com/AVRant podcast is where you can go to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 128 patrons over there.
I want to thank those who sent in notes of thanks, including Jack, Karl, Alex, Infinite Gary, Raph, Jason S., Jason E., and Gurinder. Thank you for thanking us.
For sure. I'll say the names one more time. We got Jack, Karl, Alex, Infinite Gary, Raph, Jason S., Jason E., and Gurinder. Thank you all so much for your notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.